pardon. He's been playing into the president's rhetoric about how illegitimate this whole investigation is. So he's doing a public relations thing right now, not a legal argument thing. And that leads me to believe that he's not really interested in cooperating. He's playing the long game and hoping that he'll get a pardon at the end of it.
And in fact, you know, the president has tweeted about him, praising him for saying publicly that he would never turn on the president in any way. And there's been a lot made of the president's tweets, criticizing Michael Cohen, praising Paul Manafort, praising Roger Stone. Some have said, you know, this is meddling, this is obstruction, this is trying to influence a witness. What do you make of that? He's the president of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's shocking, and it's really important to remember that it has repercussions on down the line. So we are so focused on this one particular investigation, but there are investigations being conducted by the FBI every day of drug dealers, of violent criminals, and in every single one of those cases, the prosecutors are depending on cooperators. And the president of the United States has called it almost illegal, which is shocking. That is the way our criminal justice system works. And when he says it, it doesn't just apply to the Mueller investigation, it applies everywhere. And so he's undermining the criminal justice system and how it works in every quarter. And that is really, you know, I don't know if you want to call it obstruction of justice as much as you want to call it an abdication of his role as the chief executive officer here.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So moving forward, we've got another court case that he's going to be making another appearance shortly, you said, right? And then after that, where do we go?
Well, you know, I mean, there will be discussions between the
Could there be more charges?
There absolutely could be more charges. Okay. I mean, that's one of the things we're looking at is, are these the last charges, these sort of process crimes that have to do with lying and obstruction of justice and witness tampering? Or is there a substantive charge down the road of conspiring to defraud the United States? Because that's what the Russians were charged with. And so we're all asking that question and wanting to know the degree to which, if at all, the campaign was and the president himself was involved in that conspiracy. And there's just no way of knowing. It could be that those charges are coming, or it could be that the investigation is going to stop here. I think it's unlikely that Mueller doesn't have more information. I just don't think he would have brought these charges.
Because when you look at the indictment, what you see is certainly senior members of the campaign are very, very interested in WikiLeaks. When are they going to drop more emails that could be damaging to Hillary Clinton and to the campaign? There isn't sort of a clear directive, but they're really interested in what's going on, and they're going to Roger Stone to find out.
Right. I mean, let's just take a moment and say what a normal campaign should do at this moment. Right. I mean, this is shocking. Everybody knows what WikiLeaks is, which is essentially kind of an agent of a foreign power, a foreign hostile power. Right. So, I mean, at this point, you want to say, like, oh, my God, let somebody know this is horrible, this is awful. And instead of that, I mean, instead of that, what? We don't know. But what we know didn't happen was, like, somebody stop this. Like somebody tells somebody that this is incredibly inappropriate. Right. That is not happening at this point. The other thing that is interesting is that before this indictment, a lot of people were talking about timing. So there's so much kind of weird coincidence about when these email troves came out and what the campaign was focusing on. Right. So, you know, the campaign started to focus on Hillary Clinton's health, and that's in the indictment at a particular time. So these timing issues are an additional fact piece in that puzzle, because now it's not just that, oh, isn't that coincidental that the campaign was focusing on these issues and then these trove of emails come out. Now we know that there was communication about those subjects during that time period. So it's now so much circumstantial evidence that it's like, it'd be shocking if there weren't a way to connect these dots.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring that sort of one portion up where Roger Stone is communicating with somebody and they're talking about, you know, let's talk about the fact that she's older, or, you know, that she's not in good health. And you're right, that was sort of the things that the president was tweeting out at the time. He would say at rallies. And also the first sort of email drop came around the same time that the campaign was dealing with the Access Hollywood tape. And then, I mean, it was the Access Hollywood tape, and then literally like a day later, there was this email drop.
There was a text. So that's what the indictment tells us. We knew those connections, and now we know there was also a text, I think it was October, if I'm not wrong. There was a text that says, well done, to to Stone.
Right.
So it's, it's like that. This cannot be a coincidence. Plus, July is also a key date in the indictment and in historically what was happening on the campaign, because that is when the president got up and said, hey, Russia, if you're listening, I'd like the rest of those emails.
Yeah.
And, you can look in the indictment that's when there was a lot of right after when there was a lot of communication between Stone through his connections through Corsi and Credico with Organization One, which is WikiLeaks.
Yeah, certainly a lot of smoke, but is there a smoking gun?
Yeah, I know. We just have to wait and see.
Right, definitely. Well, Rebecca, I want to thank you so much. This has been sort of fascinating. I want to just point out to everybody that what you're seeing right there is the courthouse in Florida. That is where Roger Stone made a very brief appearance. He was released on bond, $250,000. He was asked whether or not he had any travel documents. He said that his passport was not up to date. So presuming that, he's not going to be allowed to travel out of the country anytime soon. But that's the situation there. Over at his house in Fort Lauderdale, well, there are officers still there. You can see they're almost sort of camped out. They're presumably searching that house for any additional information, anything that Roger Stone did not want to give up, and says in the indictment that he did not want to hand over a lot of emails and text messages that the Mueller investigation knew about. So we're going to continue to cover this, but for now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You are streaming CBSN, CBS News, always on. Right, this is a live picture from outside the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Former Trump advisor Roger Stone is expected to speak in about a half an hour or so, but he did make a court appearance there today. He's been freed on $250,000 bond. He's been indicted on 7 counts related to the Mueller probe, including obstruction, witness tampering, and making false statements. This all has to do with his work. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily his work for the Trump campaign, but it has to do with the Mueller investigation. You know, he briefly worked for the Trump campaign, but then he was fired. So a lot of this stuff that's in the indictment is actually taking place after he was fired from the campaign. We're also hearing from the president for the first time today. Here we have a tweet. Greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. No collusion. Border coyotes, drug dealers, and human traffickers are treated better. Who alerted CNN to be there? Yeah, because he's mentioning that because CNN just happened to be there very early in the morning when the raid happened, and CNN was probably the only broadcaster to sort of be there. I shouldn't say raid, but be there when the FBI descended on Roger Stone's house. So there you have it. Well, the impact of the partial government shutdown is growing by the day. Now that the federal government has been closed for nearly 5 weeks, roughly 800,000 federal workers have been living without pay since the shutdown began last month. David Begnaud is at the World Central Kitchen in Washington. David, I see they're putting you to work there. Tell me a little bit about the place that you are, this World Central Kitchen. What's that all about?
Well, so it's Chef Jose Andres who has organized a makeshift kitchen and has welcomed humanitarians, right? Volunteers, some of them federal employees, to come in and do exactly what I'm doing. I wanted to jump in and help. It's hard to come here and tell this story without not offering to jump in. So what I was just stirring was some quinoa soup. Tom, you have, what is this?
This is nacho sauce.
Nacho sauce. Tell me why you wanted to be here. Tom is a chef, but he works sort of in the catering business. Why for you?
Well, I started out in the business doing as a volunteer, and then became a profession. And now to hear these people that are out of work, and if we can help them with it, I've got the time to be able to do it.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a great fun. There's great people in here.
Thank you for what you're doing. So the kitchen is full. They're getting the meat ready. I've met bartenders. I've met taxi drivers. I've met FBI employees who've all said, okay, put me in the kitchen. So the building that we're in is on Pennsylvania Avenue, not far from the White House, kind of in the main busy area of D.C. And look at this map right here, Anne Marie. This tells you where all the other kitchens are around the country. So there's one in Puerto Rico, the island that we love, up and down the West Coast. I didn't realize that there's actually one at Emeril Lagasse's restaurant in my home state of Louisiana. You got some in California. So Chef Andres says they're now in 20 states and the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. So here's what happened. Starting at 11 a.m. today, people are going to come through the door. You got to show your government-issued ID, and then you go through the line. They've got the menu up there. You go through, you grab a bag, there's coffee to the side, and you're out the door. It's really quick, doesn't take a lot of time. And to the side, there's another place where you can get feminine products, pet food, diapers. This is an incredible resource for government employees, some of whom, Anne-Marie, are coming day after day, we're told. They opened last Wednesday here in Washington, D.C., and they've served more than 40 meals so far.
Well, David, I think that is phenomenal. I think it's remarkable. It's nice to see people giving. But I also am thinking these are federal employees. They have good government jobs. They should not be brought to the point where they need to receive this sort of charity. I know tonight, David, at around 8 p.m. here, here on CBSN, you've got a special that we're airing where you've talked to a lot of these furloughed federal employees. And I'm wondering what you have been hearing from them. Also, particularly, I don't know if you have, but if you talk to any federal employees who actually voted for Donald Trump, and how are they feeling about the current situation?
You know what's interesting about you saying that? I have not heard from one person who actually condemned the president or really went after Democrats. The stories that I've been hearing have simply focused on the personal pain that people are going through right now, trying to figure out, some people, do I have the money to put gas in my car? Do I have the money to pay my bills? Okay, I paid my bills, but I don't have money. You know, I've got $400 left in the bank account. The idea for this special, Anne Marie, started a couple of days ago. You know, I've been watching the good reporting of you, and I have some wonderful colleagues who've been reporting on the shutdown, and I felt compelled to say, what can I do sort of with my social media platform? So I just put out a tweet saying, share your stories with me because I want to share them. So as people shared, I'd verify, ask them, you know, for proof that they were who they said they were. And I started to share the stories, and I thought, we have to do something with this. So I asked the bosses at CBS News yesterday, and quite frankly, a team of colleagues, can we do a special and put this all together? Think Larry King Live old school, where people call in, right, and tell you their stories. And the bosses bought it. And that's why we're in Washington, D.C. today. And it just so happened that Chef Jose Andres called me as well, and he said, amigo, you got to come see what we have in Washington, D.C. You got to look at the people, the folks who are sitting right here getting the utensils ready, all of whom are volunteers. There are a couple ladies there who work for the FBI. One woman works for the Commerce Department. She's from Puerto Rico. Everybody is coming together, right? Uber actually announced yesterday they're partnering to give people free rides to come here and pick up food. So anyway, That's what inspired this special that airs tonight. We're going to call it Voices of the Shutdown, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on CBSN. I think it will be worth your time. I really do. And we're going to leave the politics aside. Politics is important, but Nancy Cordes and Ed O'Keefe and the other folks have been telling that. Tonight, what we want to do is we just want you to hear the personal stories. That's what we want to do, raw and unedited.
You know, I love all the goodness that has come out of this. It saddens me that it has come to this at the same time. But David, really looking forward to your special. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Coming up after the break, a chaotic situation in Venezuela as two men both claim to be president. Thousands are marching in the streets, and America is taking a side. You're streaming CBSN.